On February 24, 2005, 38-year-old Rosemary Essa went out for a movie in Cleveland, Ohio, when she was involved in a minor low-speed accident. What followed would change everything. When emergency services arrived, they found her traumatized and vomiting uncontrollably, which puzzled them. It wasn't normal. She was rushed to the hospital, where doctors declared her dead. What unfolded next would reveal a disturbing and highly unusual story. That morning, Rosie, her husband Yazid Essa, and their two small children began their day. Yazid had the day off and looked after the kids, allowing Rosie to focus on her plans. She intended to go to the cinema with her sister, but errands delayed her. Eventually, she rushed out and drove off. At 1:53 p.m., while driving, she called a friend for a casual chat. The conversation took a dark turn. Rosie told her friend Ava, "I feel like crap. I just feel horrible," and then passed out. Driving slower than usual in her Volvo SUV on Wilson Mills Road, Rosie's behavior became erratic. A 10-minute drive to the theater became strange as she veered across lanes. She crashed into another car but continued moving until her car gradually stopped. A passing medical professional noticed her car parked awkwardly, pulled over, and approached. Rosie was slumped in the driver's seat, vomiting on herself and the door, eyes wide open, struggling to breathe. Realizing the urgency, the passerby called 911. Paramedics arrived, rushing Rosie to Hillcrest Hospital. Meanwhile, police remained at the scene, puzzled. The car showed minimal damage, yet Rosie was in critical condition. At the hospital, doctors noticed she wasn't breathing well and was unresponsive. They intubated her and administered multiple medications to stabilize her heart rate, but her condition remained dire. Doctors were stunned. There was no trauma or injury that explained her state. "We have a healthy female, unresponsive on EMS arrival," one emergency physician said. Was it a ruptured aneurysm? Aortic dissection? Yazid, home with the kids, was called and rushed to the hospital. Doctors asked if Rosie had any medical conditions. He said no, she was completely healthy. Despite 45 minutes of aggressive treatment, Rosie showed no improvement. An hour after arriving, she was pronounced dead. The minor crash had unearthed dark secrets. Dominic, Rosie's brother and a lawyer, began making calls, including to Rosie's best friend, Eva McGregor. Eva had known Rosie since she was 4 and Eva was her babysitter. On hearing the news, Eva was devastated, but she mentioned something strange to Dominic. Rosie said Yazid gave her a pill that made her feel terrible. "You should look into it." Eva had spoken to Rosie seconds before the accident, and her memory hinted at something unusual. That morning, Yazid had insisted Rosie take a calcium supplement, stressing bone health at her age. But shortly after taking it, Rosie started feeling ill. Dominic followed the lead. On February 25, 2005, Dr. Balge conducted a full autopsy and toxicology report, hoping for answers. But the results were inconclusive. No cause of death emerged. Rosie, a healthy 38-year-old mother of 2, had died suddenly in a minor car crash. Something didn't add up. Investigators sensed something was missing. Out of respect, they gave Yazid time to grieve. There was no evidence of foul play yet. Rosie had always been full of life, hardworking and passionate. After graduating, she began working at Mount Sinai Hospital. Around that time, she met Yazid Essa, a young physician. Yazid, son of Palestinian immigrants, grew up in Detroit, where his family owned a grocery store. In 1995, he and Rosie fell in love and married on September 11, 1999. Their son Armin was born in 2000, their daughter Lena in 2002. The couple even planned a third child. To everyone, they were the perfect family. Detectives ran a background check on Yazid, nothing suspicious. Still, they resumed the investigation. Re-interviewing witnesses and hospital staff, they noticed Yazid's odd reaction to Rosie's death. He seemed detached and showed little emotion. Shortly after the accident, Yazid sent a calm group message. "I just wanted to let you know that Rosie died yesterday in a minor car accident. She will be missed." The tone was shocking. He didn't ask any questions, just accepted the crash as the cause. 2 weeks later, police contacted Yazid, not as a suspect, but to get his version of events. They invited him to give a voluntary statement. Yazid agreed. She left around 1, running a little late, going to a movie with her sister, he told them. She occasionally took calcium, and I told her to take some before she left. When asked about the vitamins, he said, "Just calcium. I can't see how that would relate." Detectives asked if the pills were still at his home. Yazid agreed to let them collect them. When they arrived, they found a woman in the kitchen, Margarita Montes, the daytime nanny. Yazid had also hired a nighttime nanny, Michelle Meline. Odd, but the detectives focused on the pills. They collected a plastic bottle labeled calcium and sent it for testing. On first look, the pills appeared normal, but lab tests revealed otherwise. 9 capsules had been tampered with. Detectives were alarmed. They ordered a full analysis. The results shocked everyone. The 9 pills contained cyanide. Cyanide is a deadly poison that isn't detected in standard toxicology tests. It must be specifically searched for. Its presence in Rosie's case was rare and horrifying. The investigation escalated to a murder case. With cyanide confirmed, detectives obtained a search warrant for Rosie's car. They collected vomit samples and material from the seat covers. As expected, cyanide was found in her vomit. A second toxicology screen was ordered. The results stunned investigators. 9.1 milligrams of cyanide per liter of blood, 3 times the fatal dose. Even more alarming, the tainted pills Rosie took contained between 600 and 800 milligrams of pure cyanide, more than enough to kill instantly. It was now clear her death wasn't an accident, it was intentional. Detectives believed Yazid planned for Rosie to take the highway. If the cyanide hit while driving 60 miles per hour, she would have crashed, and the coroner might have ruled the cause of death a traffic accident. But Rosie took a slower back road that day, allowing enough time for the symptoms to manifest before a crash, revealing the truth. Police prepared to arrest Yazid. But he was one step ahead. Just before they could act, they learned he had vanished. On March 18, 2005, detectives took the pills from Yazid's house. That night, he asked Rosie's sister to watch the kids. She agreed, unaware he was about to flee. At 4 a.m. the next morning, she received a voicemail. Yazid calmly claimed his friend's brother had been in a car crash in North Carolina and might not survive. He said he had to go help. He also told Rosie's family he'd return Monday. But Monday passed. No call. No Yazid. Concerned, they contacted his friend, only to discover Yazid never went to North Carolina. No accident. No truth in his story. Now worried, Rosie's family reported Yazid missing. Days passed with no word. Why had he run, especially with a murder investigation underway? Dominic, Rosie's brother, suspected more than just panic. He went to Yazid's house to search for clues. In the kitchen, he found an envelope that had just arrived, passport style. Dominic's heart sank. Yazid hadn't just vanished. He'd run. Dominic immediately told police and urged them to question Yazid's brother and business partner, Foz Essa. When contacted, Foz didn't hold back. He admitted Yazid asked for help fleeing the country. Yazid told him he feared people would uncover his sexual affairs, particularly with the 2 nannies he had hired. He also said he was unhappy in his marriage and wanted to leave Rosie. Could Yazid have killed Rosie to avoid divorce costs and live freely with the nannies? To help Yazid escape, Foz contacted a cousin familiar with smuggling people across borders. It was risky, but fast. Yazid traveled from Detroit to Windsor, then to Toronto, Cyprus, and finally Beirut. He was Lebanese, and Lebanon had no extradition treaty with the U.S. There he settled. A friend in Lebanon provided him with documents, connections, and safe houses. It was the perfect hideout. On April 22, 2005, the coroner officially ruled Rosie's cause of death, acute cyanide poisoning. A grand jury indicted Yazid for aggravated murder. But bringing him to justice would be difficult. Lebanon wouldn't extradite. Yazid built a new life in Beirut. He left behind his kids, likely assuming Rosie's family would care for them. It was shocking how calculated and efficient his escape had been. The FBI and U.S. authorities spent months piecing together the full picture. By then, Yazid had completely disappeared. All they could do was issue plea deals in hopes he'd return voluntarily. But Yazid had other plans. He changed his name to Maurice Khoury and vanished into Beirut. Within 3 months, he began dating again, this time a 38-year-old schoolteacher named Naila Suki. He also changed his appearance: glasses, sharp clothes, a sophisticated look. Despite being wanted for murder, he acted fearlessly. He didn't hide what he'd done. He bragged about it. In clubs, he joked, "They say I'm a killer, maybe I am." His Lebanese patron warned him to stop talking. He even made a new email address, fugitive@hotmail.com, and used it regularly. Back in Cleveland, the FBI watched carefully, waiting for a mistake. It came sooner than expected. On October 7, 2006, Yazid boarded a plane to Cyprus. U.S. officials notified Cypriot authorities, warning that he might be using a fake passport. When he landed in Cyprus, police stopped him. Though his ID didn't match, they requested fingerprints. The results were immediate. It was Dr. Yazid Essa. He was arrested. But the process wasn't easy. Although Cyprus had an extradition agreement with the U.S., it didn't apply to cases involving the death penalty. Yazid's lawyers argued that aggravated murder could carry a death sentence. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Bill Mason assured Cyprus they wouldn't seek the death penalty. But legal delays stretched on. For nearly 3 years, Yazid fought extradition. Finally, in January 2009, he was sent back to Cleveland to face trial for aggravated murder. The next step was to build a prosecution case. But all they had were circumstantial pieces, poisoned pills, a fleeing suspect, and an incriminating email. Proving Yazid's guilt in court wouldn't be easy. The trial began on January 9, 2010, in Cleveland. Yazid's defense argued that the case lacked hard evidence. They claimed everything was speculative, no physical or scientific proof directly linking Yazid to the crime. Despite this, the prosecution moved forward. Their case was built on connecting the dots and proving intent. They aimed to show Yazid had motive, opportunity, and means. Yazid's defense insisted someone else must have tampered with the pills. They suggested Yazid didn't know they were laced with cyanide. But the prosecution called 80 witnesses to challenge that theory. The most damning testimony came from Yazid's own brother, Foz Essa. He revealed a critical conversation. "When did he tell you he gave her the pill that killed her?" the prosecution asked. "Sometime after she died," Foz replied. "It was a bad time, we just lost someone we loved." "Did you ask him if he was responsible?" "Yes." "And he said yes." "What did he say he did?" "He said he put the cyanide in the capsules." That confession hit the courtroom hard. The defense tried to shift blame again, floating the idea that one of Yazid's mistresses, jealous of his marriage, might have poisoned Rosie. But they had no proof. The prosecution, on the other hand, pointed to Yazid's own words. He had joked about the murder in Beirut. Witnesses heard him say, "Plan A was a high-speed car crash. Plan B, random product tampering. Plan C, girlfriend kills my wife so we can be together." That chilling remark outlined intent and planning, exactly what the jury needed to hear. After days of intense testimony and debate, the jury returned with a verdict on March 9, 2010. We, the jury in this case, find the defendant, Yazid Essa, guilty of aggravated murder. Yazid Essa was sentenced to life in prison without parole eligibility for 20 years. Rosie's parents were overcome with mixed emotions, relieved that justice was served, but heartbroken that their daughter was gone. Rosie had planned to have a third child. Instead, her 2 children would now grow up without either parent. Before we end this story, we want to express our deepest condolences to the family of Rosemary Essa. What do you think? Did Yazid truly kill Rosie just to be with other women, or is there more to this story? Thanks for joining me for this gripping true crime case. If you found it compelling, don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth investigations. Share your thoughts in the comments. Were there any details that surprised you? Until next time, stay safe and keep questioning the world around you.